be able to continue our quality education, we have this specific solution, which is the shifting to online learning or blended mode of classes in the comfort of our homes. Okay, so this short story created many problems that we are not aware of. So one of the problems that I found is this particular article. So it was mentioned that science teaching and learning was found to fall off during the pandemic. Okay, so it's an article, an international article that I found, and I believe it's also happening here in our country. So not in even if it's not in all of the schools, but many of our schools are experiencing this kind of tragedy. Sorry. So I know that it's not only science that is falling off. So other subjects are also experiencing this kind of problems. And I just want to ask a simple question. So what do you think are the reasons of these fall-offs? So since I know that some of you are teachers in the field, what do you think are the reasons of the fall-off of the different subjects? So you can type your answers in the chat box. Okay, so what do you think are the reasons of the fall-off of science teaching, English teaching, math teaching? So I know that the scores of the students are declining when it comes to assessments. So do you have any reasons or do you think of any reason why this is happening? Okay, so you can type your answers. If you have answers or anything that you can say, you can put it in the chat box. Okay. So for me, one of the reasons of this fall-off is because online classes are not engaging at all right now. No, not all teachers are delivering classes that are engaging in online teaching. So not all classes creates conducive environment for the learning to occur. So it's really true. Not all of us have the ability to initiate responses for the students. So those are some of the things that we think are the reasons of the fall-off. So it's not really happening only in science classes, but it also happens in other subjects. So one answer from Miss Julius de Mesa, thank you so much. It is falling off because of the technology and internet connectivity concerns. And it's important in learning science. Thank you so much, Miss Julius. That is also correct. It's not only because of the engagement, it also falls off, or it also falls in the category of the accessibility in terms of internet connectivity. That's really good, since that is one of our instruments to continue quality education. So as another answer from Mr. John Rensil Quinto, thank you so much. It falls off because of the lack of focus on the side of the students. Yes, it will be tackled later. That's really an exact answer. I'll be tackling it later. Okay. So aside from that, there is an answer from Miss Lady Sampayan. So lack of student participation. That's correct. Thank you so much. So those are just some of the reasons why science teaching is falling off, and other maybe other subjects. Okay. So moving on, the answer for those problems that we are having is this one. It's the innovation in education. So we all know that we innovated education from the year 2020 onwards. So what is innovation? Innovation is not just doing something new. It is thinking of new ways to improve a product, a method, a process, or a situation, or even an idea. Okay? So again, it's a process of thinking new ways to improve. So it's part of an action a teacher must take. Okay, so I just want to remind those other participants to please mute your microphones.
Sir, much before you continue, may I call the attention of Ma'am Maria Angelica po. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, so innovation, the question is shifting our educational system from a traditional point of view to an online way, is it an innovation? Yes, because it's a new way to improve our current situation. So that's part of what we call as innovation. But the question is that innovation effective? So we're going to know about this part. That's why through this topic and through these issues and solutions, I was able to come up with my topic right now. So it's exploring the anatomy of innovative teaching, dissecting the 5 E's with the aid of educational technology. So we will be exploring the anatomies of innovative teaching. Why is there a word anatomy? I just don't know. I'm a biology major before, and since this is a science conference, so I think that this is really applicable for what am I going to present to you. So we have the innovative way of teaching. I know that many of you are innovators when it comes to teaching inside the classroom. So we will be also dissecting the 5 E's with the aid of educational technology. So if you are familiar with the 5 E's and educational technology, this presentation is for you. Okay. So again, I'm Mr. March Joseph Sardo, an educational technology specialist. Okay. So my session outline will be divided into 3 parts. The first part is the anatomy of innovative teaching. So this is where you will identify if you are an innovative teacher. Why? Because I will reveal some of the characteristics an innovative teacher has. And then it will be followed by the dissection of the 5 E's, or the innovative teacher's instructional model. So if you're familiar with instructional models, we have plenty of instructional models. And we are going to use, or I will show you the 5 E's as an instructional model. And lastly, we have here some of the examples of educational technology that you can include in these 5 E's. So it's a support for the innovative instruction. So I know this will become helpful. Why? Because we are creating our own exemplars. In the public schools, we have this what we call as exemplars, or formerly known as the lesson plans. Okay, so you can integrate all of this in your lesson plan. Okay, so you can highlight these parts and mention that you have this type of teaching strategy, and you use the 5 E's as your instructional model. Okay, so let me proceed. So this is another question, a quick question. So what, in one word, what to you, or you can please define an innovative teacher. So if you believe that you are an innovative teacher, what do you think is a one word that will define an innovative teacher? So thank you for those who send your responses. We have here Miss Bernadette Claveria, adaptive. An innovative teacher is adaptive. This is really true, because we are forced to transition from a traditional way of teaching to an online mode of teaching. So you need to adapt very fast. Same answer with Mr. Ian Ezekiel Martin. Thank you so much. From Miss Juris de Mesa, resourceful. That's correct. Mary Grace Rafael, solution. It's you are a person who knows how to solve a problem. That's correct. From Teacher Tamayo, flexible. Okay, flexible. That's correct. And you have the ability to think outside the box. We are critical thinkers. Inventive. Thank you so much, Miss Sohora Retuya. So here, those are just some of the adjectives, some of the characteristics an innovative teacher has. So if you are an innovative teacher, you can check it out, or you can practice on becoming one using the characteristics that I will present to you. Okay. Thank you so much for the responses. So for the first part of our session, we have the anatomy of innovative teaching. So since we are talking about anatomies, we are going to talk about body parts. And I know that these body parts are very basic and will be easily understood. Okay, so we have the first part of our anatomy. So the innovative teacher's mind, or the brain. So the brain works to question school convention. So I know that many of you are innovative thinkers. And as an innovative teacher, you need to see if the school that you are working on, or you are currently working, are complex institutions that are adhering to the challenges of the pandemic when it comes to educational challenges. Okay, so check if your school is doing things based on outdated assumptions or conditions. So I know that some of the schools, not only schools, but classroom teaching strategies, we thought that the traditional mode of teaching can be transferred through online learning. So those are some of the examples of outdated assumptions. And check if that happens to your school. So if that happens to your school, then it's time for you to decide innovative strategies. So which is another thing that an innovative teacher must do. So after seeing that there are changes that you need to, somehow take a step on, you need to create a plan or an innovative instruction through a series of experimentation, revision, and replication. So I know that being innovative or being an innovator is not really an easy step to take. Okay, but that is the first step that you need to become if you wanted to become an innovative teacher. And again, let me remind you that innovation is one of the solutions to be able for us to continue quality education. So this is a challenge for everyone. You need to update your teaching toolkit and become an innovative teacher. Okay. So moving on, we have the innovative teacher's hands. So these hands are created to work or to create conducive environments. So we have this particular responsibility wherein we have to create conducive environment or a very powerful and engaging environments or learning management systems that will help us transfer or give the learners the responsibility to learn on their own. So that is the power of teaching. You will not become a teacher who will teach or who will give or spoon feed the knowledge that the students needs. You need to become a sole facilitator. Okay, so in this type of instructional model, a teacher will not do traditional modes of teaching or traditional strategies of teaching. Okay, so you will become a facilitator from the first start of the school up to the last day of the school day. Okay? So, and aside from that, your hands need to be to work on experimenting methods. So you need to test out new teaching methods on classes of the young minds in a sensitive matter. So why this is a sensitive matter? All of the teaching strategies are good for the students, but if it will sacrifice, say for example, the digital profile of a student, the well-being of the students, so let's take that into consideration. So not all teaching strategies are applicable for all types of learning. That's why we need to experiment and evaluate and analyze the data that we can gather so that we will come up to the best strategy that you can use for your current student. So why current student? Not all strategies that are existing right now is applicable to everyone. Okay, so the strategies are the best strategies that you will find can be or may be applicable to the next generation, but maybe not or may not be applicable for the following generation. So you need to continuously experiment on the methods that you have. Okay. So aside from that, we have the innovator or innovator's eyes, wherein it helps us to work on the observation of the student progress. So this is really important. Observation on student progress. If you don't have this type of skill or if you don't have the data on the student progress, your teaching innovation will not work or will not, your teaching innovation doesn't have any support. So you don't know which strategy you will maintain or which strategy you will replace. So you need to observe your students' data. So I'll share later some of the examples of the educational technology tools that will be very helpful for you to observe student progress. So in the traditional mode of teaching, student progress is really easy to measure since you already have the scores of the students when you have a quiz for the day. Since there are the manpower is really important. But if you are alone, if you are an online teacher and you have plenty of students, it's really impossible for you to have a very easy access on the student progress. That's why we need technology to help us on that part. Okay. So, and you need to have that eye to discover the new method. So you need to ensure that the students always get the best learning experiences. Okay. Moving on with the next part, I know that the teacher's mouth has lots of functions. But the function that we need to have when it comes to innovative or innovation in education falls on these two categories. So the first part is collaboration with others. This is really important. So as a teacher, you need to collaborate to another teacher or to a group of teachers um, who are experimenting different innovation strategies. Why? Because you need to get the best practices that they have, and you need to share your best practices. So sharing and collaborating is really important if you want to become an innovative teacher. So do not limit it to yourself. Share it to other people so that you will create a group or a pool of innovative teachers in the future, and you will save and improve the quality of the teaching education that we are having right now. Okay, so you need to create partnerships and teams to develop unique alternatives. And of course, that mouth is also used to speak words of encouragement. This is really important, especially in this time of pandemic. We all know that the pandemic are the products of the pandemic or the experiences that we have in the pandemic is really stressful. So what students and other teachers wants to hear are not negative words, but words of encouragement. So you need to use your mouth to motivate and encourage students to succeed. Okay. So that's how our innovative teacher's mouth works. And then we have the innovative teacher's ears. So the ear we use to hear out student needs. So student cries for help. We need to recognize those challenges. So those challenges such as lack of understanding, loss of focus, low engagement, or demotivation. Students will not speak this up personally, or they will not inform you through chats and other online conferences or tools. This will be shown also in the data of the student progress. So if you saw someone who's not performing, the student may be lacking, or the student may not understand the lesson that was discussed before, or they don't have the focus, or they don't have the resources. That's why they did not participate. So students' answers are always coded. If you have your subject in professional development, when we ask students, did you understand the lesson? And the student replied, okay, it's not really an authentic answer. It's not really an answer that we need. So it will not show the student progress. So we need to find our data to support this part. Okay? And lastly, we have the innovative teacher's heart. So the heart that is strong enough to try to end methods. So I know most of you are really afraid of trying new things, trying things out. But as an innovative teacher, like what Teacher Tamayo said, you need to become a risk taker. And that needs to have a strong heart. Okay. So teachers must try to innovate their own teaching and take this step even if it runs counter to the culture they work within or with themselves. Okay. So those are some of the anatomies of an innovative teacher. So you have here the eyes, the ears, the heart, the mind, and others. So those are also characteristics of an innovative teacher. And I hope that many of us are applying this kind of, or these principles. So if you don't have this kind of characteristics, you can practice and start applying it now. Okay. So moving on to the next part of our session, you have there the dissection of the 5 E's of innovative teaching. So why did I use 5 E's? 5 E's is more of a scientific step on integrating a model into our instructional designs. And since we are talking about scientific innovation, also 5 E's can be applied to other subjects such as English, Math, Filipino, Social Studies, and others. Okay? So this is a really scientific step. Even though the word is scientific, it does not really limited on the science subjects. Okay? So yeah, we have the 5 E's model. It's a framework for a constructivist, so meaning maker, guided inquiry approach for students. Let me clarify this part. It's all about students. Teachers were not mentioned in the specific model. Okay. So where students are supported to think and work scientifically by gathering and analyzing their own evidence and communicate their ideas with others. So as you can see, this is a student-centered instructional model. Okay? So we need to create this type of, or we need to apply this instructional model for us to become innovative teachers. Okay. So question again, do you know the 5 E's? If yes, can you please or can you provide at least one of the E's? We have 5. So you can guess at least an E that you think is present in the 5 E's. So we have the 5 E's. If you are familiar with the 5 E's, it's like the 4 A's of the lesson plan. But in this case, we have the 5 E's. That's correct, Miss Juris. Explore is part of it. Explore, engage, that's correct. Engage. So we have 2 E's. Aside from the 2 E's that we still have 3. Explicit. Okay, it's under one of the 5 E's. Experiment is also part. Evaluate, that's the last part of the 5 E's. Explain is also there. Thank you so much. Yeah, I believe that you are familiar with the 5 E's. It's like, it's really common. It's really present in our lesson plan, but it's not really written in the document. So we can highlight those parts and think that this is really a 5E. Okay? So if you are working with your exemplars or lesson plans, most of the parts of the lesson plans have manifests the 5 E's. So let us try to identify those. Okay, so we have the first one, engage. That's correct. The first step is engagement. So the purpose of engage phase is to elicit students' prior knowledge with an activity or a question. So in your lesson plan, this engaging part is in which part of the document? So I believe that all of us know that it is in the, since we are talking about the students' prior knowledge, this is in the lesson plan. So if I'm not mistaken, this is in the part of the review part or the recall part of the lesson. That's correct. That's correct. It's in the review part. So aside from that, we know that engage can also be manifested in the different parts of the lesson plan. But mainly, this is part of the review or the recall of the exemplar. Okay, so the purpose of this one, again, is to elicit students' prior knowledge with an activity or a question. So I will show you some of the questions that you can include in your review part or in your recall and engagement part. So you can include their questions. Say, for example, you're going to create your lesson plan. And I know that when creating lesson plans, we need to put contents. So what content will you include in your recall part? So you can include there, why do you think blank happened? So all the blanks there must be related to the topic that you are going to teach. So aside from that, you can also ask, what are your experiences with blank? Say, for example, you're going to talk about machines. So you can ask the students, what are your experiences with riding in a Ferris wheel? Say, for example, since Ferris wheel is a type of a machine. So that's how you will be able to work on with your engaging questions. Okay. So for the activities, you can include there some of this. So I know that you know KWL chart, but in here it's KWHL charts. You can also use online concept map. If you are familiar with C maps, V maps, you can also create polls if you are going to ask questions for the students. So that's how engaging activities works. But we have lots of different questions and activities that you can include. So I selected just a few. If you wanted to know more about this so that you can have a resource if you're going to create your own lesson plans, I can share the link where I found out the list of the questions and activities that you can include in each part or phases of the 5 E's. Okay? So the next part will be explore. I know that exploration phase is created to carry out hands-on investigations. So in which they can explore, or students can explore the concept or the skill with an activity or a question. Since you already provided a question in the engaging part, I highly recommend to use an activity for this specific part of the exploration. So that students can also carry out their own investigations. Okay. So in the exploration part, if you're teaching science, you can include there several activities such as online simulations, laboratory investigations, or model creations. And you can also include questions in your exemplar as follows. We have, why do you suppose to blank? What might you do to find the answer to blank? And what might happen if you blank? So all of these questions are exploring questions. Okay? So questions that are created for students to answer, but with the use of the exploration phase. Okay? So that's for the exploration part. That's the second E. The third E, explain. The purpose of the explain phase is to support students to develop scientific explanations. Draw from experiences and observations using presentation. So if they performed an investigative or a hands-on experience or an activity, after the exploration part, they need to explain the discoveries that they have or the answers of the questions that they encountered. Okay, so students will explain it with using representations. So it's not merely a word-by-word presentation. It can be a graphical presentation, a presentation using the different symbols, signs, and so on. Okay. So the questions that you can include: what patterns did you notice? What evidences do you have? And what did you expect to find? So here are some of the questions for explanation part. And the activities that you can ask the students to do is concept mapping, completed KWHL, and laboratory reports. So this is more of an output presentation from the exploration phase that the students have. Okay. So explaining is also part of the presentation in the lesson plan. Okay. So we have the fourth E, elaborate. So this phase provides opportunities for students to apply what they have learned to new situations and develop a deeper understanding of the concept or a greater use of their science inquiry skills. Okay. So this is a misconception for the elaborate part. So we thought that teachers in this part will explain or discuss the topic that you are or the unit topic that you are facilitating. So no, like what I said earlier, teachers have no part in this particular 5 E's. What the role or the main purpose of the teacher in the 5 E's is to become facilitators. Question. The question is, how will students clarify if their learning is valid or correct? If you don't intervene and mention some facts. So the teacher's role is to prompt questions. So we can only prompt questions that the students will answer. That's why this is an elaborate part for the students, not for the teachers. Okay. So in the elaborate part, if the students presented facts or presented information which are not correct, the teachers will question or will mention some questions that will redirect, that will put the students into the right positions. Okay. So in the right path. So teachers will not mention the true facts. You just need to mention questions that will help them redirect or be placed into the right possible answers. Okay. So that's the elaboration part. But I know this is arguably, this is negotiable sometimes. This is the part, if you don't have that specific time, many teachers will mention the fact itself. So, yeah, that's the correct or the proper way on how we can elaborate or we can facilitate in the elaborate phase. Okay. And we have here examples of elaborations. Like what I said, what are the similarities and differences? You can ask that in your lesson plan. You can include that. Do you think that there might be another explanation for it? This is a good transition question to redirect the students or to help the students realize if their outputs are correct or not. So where can we use this concept in real life? So this is another way on how we can elicit elaborative questions or answers. For the activities, you can revisit previous experiments and solve real-world problems. So I hope that you are taking notes with the questions and activities. Yeah. So later I'll show you the different educational technology tools that we can use to support since the role of technology or educational technology is just for aiding. So I'll share later. So for the last part, it's the evaluation. So the final phase provides an opportunity for students to review and reflect on their own learning and on their understanding or new understanding and skills. So we are very familiar with this one. So some of the examples of the evaluation part are as follows. So you can list 4 things that you know. These are mainly some of the formative assessment or summative assessments that we can perform inside the classes. Some activities are worksheets, quizzes, portfolio, oral and video presentations. Okay. So let's remember that all of those or all of the 5 E's are not all of the 5 E's are really important. So there is no phase wherein you can all of the phases must be present in a plan. So you don't have the right to remove at least one letter to shorten your lesson. So all of these are essential, and you need to make sure that all of the students will go to the different phases of the 5 E's. Okay. So a short question again, which do you think of the E5 diagram is correct? Is it letter A or letter B? So this is a very short question. This is really a misconception. When it comes to 5 E's, we have phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what do you think is the correct way to graphically present the 5 E's? So is it letter A or letter B? Yeah, that's correct. The review part is the activity proper. That's correct. Okay, I saw answers. All of the answers are letter B. That's correct. The E5 or the 5 E's are considered as cyclical or continuous. So it's not linear. So meaning to say, when students are exploring, they can evaluate what they are, the outputs that they have. Or when students are having engagements, they can explore. Then when students are having engagements, they can elaborate. So this is really a cyclical process or an interlocking concept that can exist in any part of the lesson. So that's why in your lesson plan, you can include at least 2 or more elaboration phases, engagement phases, depending on the student's preferences or the student's needs. Okay. So those are some of the E5s. Another misconception, I will answer this part. How long should we integrate the use of the 5 E's framework in our instruction? So is it 1 to 2 hours of teaching session, 1 school year, 2 to 3 weeks of teaching instruction, or none of the above? So the correct answer there is letter C. It must be 2 to 3 weeks. So a lesson plan will not become a daily lesson log. It must be a 2-week plan or a journey for the students, because it's really impossible for students to explore for at least 20 minutes like that. So if you're planning to create a unit plan, 5 E's must exist for at least 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah, for the third educational technology part as an aid, let me clarify, educational technology is just an aid. So when we talk about EdTech, it refers to the various digital technologies that we use for the teaching and learning. Okay. So yeah, this is the last question that I'm going to ask to the participants. What are the educational technology tools that you are currently using? So is it Kahoot, Quizzes, Nearpod? There are lots of educational technology that we can use. Quizzes, Miss Lady, is using Quizzes, Mentimeter, ISO Padlet, Kahoot. I believe Menti is a paid application. Yeah, Mentimeter. That's correct. Thank you so much. So those are some of the examples. So I'll show you a very fast examples of the different educational technology tools that I'm using. So we have here. So for say for example, you are in the engagement part. I mentioned that the activity that you can perform here as a student is the KWL chart. So you can use Google Jamboard. Why? Because in the Google Jamboard, students can easily reorganize their thoughts. So say for example, if you're going to create or to answer what I know, answer one. Say for example, answer for what I know. Answer for the next question or the next part. So say for example, we have 4 answers. So in this particular educational technology tool, student can easily organize their thoughts and include it in a chart. So this is an example of an educational technology tools that the students can use. So if they change their mind, say for example, the answer number 4 must belong to the. Okay. So they can easily organize the application. Thank you so much, ClassPoint. I'm using ClassPoint, but I wasn't able to facilitate it today. So for the engaging part, so for example, we have, for after the engagement part, we have the exploration part. So wherein the students can have hands-on activities.
Recording in progress.
But of course, here it is. And I'll be ending my slideshow, so my partner Romel here can already get into the music that is most requested. And we will call you back, our participants at
technology in the 5 E's. So I mentioned before that in the first part of the 5 E's, which is engagement, we can use Google Jamboard for our students to decide on the learning or on the answers that they can provide with the following questions. So like what I said, answers, if students change their mind, say for example, if they have problems when it comes to organization of the answers, they can easily move the answer from one place to another using Google Jamboard. So if you want a collective way to have, or a collective way to gather information from each students, I highly recommend you to use Google Sheets, because Google Sheets can be instructed or extracted into Google Forms, and it can be extracted into Google Sheets. Okay, so this is one way on how we can integrate educational technology in the engagement part. So when I talk about last time, I was talking about the exploration part. So this is a sample simulation where students can say perform laboratory experiments that are really happening inside the laboratory. Since the pandemic affected us and limit us to go to schools or on-site laboratories, we can use online laboratories with the same function and features. So these have different parts. So say for example, you are discussing micropipetting solutions, you can move and control the different pipetting materials. So say for example, you need to change the p-value of the micropipette volume. This is really easily, the students will easily navigate the laboratory simulation. So you can include and use or make use of this online simulation. So there are lots of simulations available in the internet. Some of it are FED simulations and simulations from other universities. So this is Lab Exchange. This is created by the Harvard School of Science. So you can use this one. Okay, when we talk about the part wherein students can explain their answers, they can use Google Docs. Okay, so this is just a particular example of the Google Docs. So say for example, they have the laboratory narrative report. The students can include here some pictures or the discussions or the activities that they did during the laboratory sessions. So for the fourth part, we have Google Drive. So I mentioned that students can revisit the experiments that they have. So the revisiting of the experiments can be subjected to evaluation. So for example, they saw wrong steps in creating a homemade calorimeter. So videos of their performances can be used to evaluate if the steps are properly initiated. Okay, so that's for the elaboration part. Lastly, we have the evaluation part. So evaluation part is not always limited to formative assessments such as quizzes. Students can also use video responses. Say for example, I have here a reflection part. I use Flipgrid. So Flipgrid, there are lots of student responses. They recorded a very short video of the reflection that they have. So this is an example of an output. So with this, you will be able to see if the students really grasp the information and of course the techniques that they need during their own discussions. Okay, so before I leave this part, we have here some of the important things to take note when it comes to using technological or educational technology. So as a facilitator, you need what we call as reports. So I'll show you some of the examples of reports that I have from using an educational technology. So this is really important because as a facilitator, you need to find out the areas of improvement that you can change or you can enrich. So if you can see in the slide, you have there the student participation. 34 of them did not participated. So you have there the data. So like what I said, student progress is really important if you are an innovative teacher. So you can also see some of the poll answers of the students. So 5 of them are worried, 1 did not answer. So this is really important because insights can be used as a medium to evaluate and to change your teaching strategy. So you can also download reports. So the reports will help you in revising your strategies. Okay. So those are just some examples. So for the final part of the presentation, sorry. Yeah. So this is a quick guide to use on the use of educational technology. The first one is to choose the appropriate tool that you can integrate in your teaching. So choose the things that will help you as a teacher, that will help the students, and that will provide the fastest way for the student feedback and of course records. That's why I presented an application which is a Nearpod application which houses all of the types of records that the student have. So if the educational technology that you chose only adds tasks that will not help you come up with the objectives of the lesson, then it's not really an applicable educational technology. So we have the next one, teach the students on how or on the use of the educational technology tool. This is really a problem in many teaching and learning process. So we integrate technology, but we did not orient the students on the use of that technology. That's why many of our students weren't able to participate. Say for example, if you are a user of Google Classroom, you did not mention the students to click the turn in button so that the outputs that they have will be sent to your Google Drive. So many of my students did not know that they need to click the turn in button. So because we did not orient the students on the use of the technology. And then the third one is we need to use the data provided by the educational technology tool. We need to interpret it and revise it. So some points to remember, never be fooled that when students enjoy something, they learn. It's not really true that when students are laughing in a lesson, they are learning. So you need to remember that. Even if the students enjoyed playing the game that you prepared, if they did not learn something, fun is not really a measurement of learning. You need to see the student progress. Innovative teaching is also good whether or not technology is used, and learning always takes the center stage. Whatever educational technology that you are using, it's the learning that we need to see. Okay? So it's the learning that must be manifested. And to end this presentation, thank you so much. I want to remember that I want to remind everyone that the reality is that the teachers do not teach content. We teach children, especially or specifically, we teach children how to connect with one another, with themselves, with the ideas, and with the world around them. So that's all. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can email me at my email account, marchjoseph.sardo@tepe.gov.ph. Credits to the slides go for this presentation. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You just witnessed the presentation and the sharing of Sir March Joseph Sardo with his topic. And may I just start? Sir March, your topic is very interesting and it's really timely, especially so that we are in what's so-called the new normal, especially in the field of education. Indeed, I learned a lot in your presentation, and I know that these learnings will be used in reality. Okay, so to our dear participants, maybe you have some questions or queries about the discussion of Sir March. Please key in already your questions or queries so that Sir March will answer your queries today.